Welcome back. For those of you who are new here, my name is Jane, and my hobbies include eating, thinking about eating, and planning my next meal while currently eating. So, a 72-hour water fast, meaning nothing but water, black coffee, and green tea for 3 whole days, was the biological equivalent of telling a golden retriever it can never fetch a tennis ball ever again. The goal was simple: 72 hours, no food, 0 calories. Just me, my tap water, and my rapidly deteriorating sanity. I started on a Thursday. Why Thursday? I don't know. I was feeling spontaneous. I had a big lunch, looked at the clock at 2 p.m., and thought, yes, this is it. The beginning of my new enlightened life. The first 12 hours were fine because I was mostly asleep. That is the ultimate fasting hack, by the way. Just be unconscious. But then Friday morning hit. I had my black coffee. I felt a little hollow, but I told myself it was the feeling of weakness leaving the body. By 1 p.m., my stomach was making noises that sounded like an angry washing machine tumbling a pair of heavy boots. By hour 19, things got dark. I walked into the kitchen to get my 47th glass of water, and I saw it. A single slice of leftover sourdough bread on the counter. I didn't just want to eat it. I was emotionally attached to it. I found myself looking at this piece of toast the way you look at a lover across a crowded room in a romantic comedy. I wanted to take it on a date. I wanted to ask it about its hopes and dreams. And then I ate it. I lasted 19 hours. I broke a 72-hour fast with a piece of dry bread and then immediately followed it up with a bowl of pasta because, well, the seal was broken. Once you cheat, the rules of the universe dictate that you must eat everything in your pantry before midnight. After my Friday night pasta binge, I sat on my couch and had a hard conversation with myself. I realized the fatal flaw in my plan. I started on a Thursday. Everyone knows you can't start a life-altering, brutally difficult habit on a Thursday. Thursdays are basically Fridays, and Fridays are the weekend. No, I needed the psychological torture chamber that is a Monday. Waiting until Monday gave me the weekend to prepare. By prepare, I mean I ate all my favorite foods to bid them farewell. It was like a farewell tour for carbohydrates. Sunday night, 8 p.m., I finished my final meal. Kidding. I realized I technically had until midnight to start, so my brain went, well, if we have 4 more hours of legal eating time, we are going to use every single second of it. I sat there eating random snacks, not because I was hungry, but just because the clock said I still could. Finally, midnight hit. The clock started ticking. Day 1 is less about physical hunger and more about psychological withdrawal. You don't realize how much of your day is structured around chewing until you're not allowed to do it anymore. At 9 a.m., it was time for breakfast, which I obviously skipped. Honestly, this part is actually easy. You aren't that hungry yet, and you still have the mental capacity to puff out your chest and say, I am a warrior. I can totally do this. At 1 p.m., lunchtime. I made a cup of black coffee. It tasted like hot sadness. By 6 p.m., dinner time. This is where the phantom hunger kicked in. My stomach wasn't actually empty enough to be starving, but my brain was throwing a tantrum. My brain was like, hey, it's 6 p.m. We usually watch Jeopardy and eat tacos right now. Where are the tacos, Jane? I drank sparkling water. Let me tell you, sparkling water is the MVP of fasting. The bubbles trick your stomach into thinking there's solid matter in there. It's a lie, but it's a comforting lie. I went to bed at 9:30 p.m. just to escape the waking nightmare of not eating. I woke up on day 2 expecting to feel that magical euphoria the fasting bros on the internet promised me. I did not feel euphoric. I felt like a deflated balloon. Getting out of bed took deliberate, calculated effort. I felt incredibly lethargic, but around hour 36, something weird happened. The gnawing hunger pangs, they just vanished. Here is where we need to talk about the science, because understanding why I was suffering was the only thing keeping me from ordering a pizza. By day 2, your body finally gets the memo that no food is coming. Normally, your body runs on the easy energy from the food you just ate, but when that runs out, it panics for a second, flips a switch, and starts eating your stored body fat for breakfast instead. It's basically like running out of easy firewood, so your body decides to chop up the ugly sofa in the basement to keep the house warm. But more importantly, around the 24 to 48-hour mark, a process kicks in called autophagy. Autophagy literally translates to self-eating. It sounds like a horror movie, but it's actually incredible. When your cells don't have to spend energy digesting food, they start doing a deep clean. They hunt down old, damaged parts and dead cellular junk, and they recycle it. It's basically Marie Kondo for your biology. Your cells hold up a damaged piece of junk, ask, does this spark joy? And when it doesn't, they incinerate it. Knowing this was happening made me feel incredibly smug. I might have been too weak to open a heavy door, but on a cellular level, I was glowing. Day 3 was wild. I woke up at the 60-hour mark and I was entirely devoid of hunger. I didn't want food. Food seemed like a primitive concept. I felt like I had evolved past the need for mortal sustenance. I also had a bizarre amount of mental clarity. You know that brain fog you get after a heavy lunch? Gone. I felt laser focused. I answered emails I'd been putting off for 3 months. I organized my junk drawer. I stared at a wall for 20 minutes just appreciating the texture of the paint. However, my senses were heightened to a terrifying degree. My sense of smell became superhuman. I could smell my neighbor, 3 houses down, opening a bag of salt and vinegar chips. I could smell the memory of a roast chicken in my oven from 2022. By hour 68, the novelty wore off. I was just tired. My hands were freezing, which is a common side effect of fasting because your body lowers your metabolic rate to conserve energy. I spent the last 4 hours wrapped in a heated blanket, watching the clock tick down on my phone like I was waiting for New Year's Eve. Hour 72, midnight on Wednesday. I made it. Now, a normal person would have just gone to sleep and waited for breakfast the next morning. But nope. 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 I was eating immediately. But when you finish a 72-hour fast, you cannot just celebrate by eating a cheeseburger. If you do that, your digestive system will essentially go into shock, and you will spend the next 2 days in the bathroom questioning all your life choices. You have to wake up your digestive system gently. I broke my fast with a cup of warm bone broth. It was without exaggeration the most delicious thing I have ever tasted in my entire life. It tasted like liquid gold. I went to sleep that night feeling incredibly proud, very full from basically nothing, and deeply relieved it was over. So let's wrap this up. Now that I'm fully refed and back to eating regular meals, would I recommend doing a 72-hour fast? Honestly, yes. I know I just spent the last 10 minutes complaining, but the benefits were actually undeniable. Let's look at the facts. First, insulin sensitivity. Every time you eat, your body releases insulin to handle the sugar. If you eat constantly from morning until night, that system gets exhausted and stops working very well. And when that happens, your body basically leaves all that excess sugar floating around in your bloodstream, which is exactly what leads to weight gain, brain fog, feeling tired all the time, and eventually things like type 2 diabetes. Fasting gives your body a 3-day all-inclusive vacation to fully reset itself, which is amazing for your metabolism. Second, inflammation. My joints felt amazing, and my skin completely cleared up. I mean, my old acne scars were still there, obviously. Fasting is a biological reset, not Photoshop. But the active breakouts? Gone. Autophagy is real and it works. And finally, the mental reset. This was the biggest one for me. We eat out of boredom so often. This fast completely reset my relationship with hunger. It taught me that an empty stomach is not a biological emergency. Will I do it again? Yes, I actually will, but not every week, not even every month. I think a 72-hour fast is the ultimate reset button. I plan to keep this in my back pocket for those times when I haven't been good to my body. You know those weeks, maybe after the holidays or after a vacation where your diet consisted entirely of margaritas and fried cheese. When you feel sluggish, bloated, and entirely off track, this is the hard reset. But I will add a massive caveat. It requires an insane amount of willpower. It is not easy. It is boring. It is socially isolating because you can't go to dinner or grab a drink with friends. And if your willpower is currently hanging on by a thread, do not try this. Start with 12 hours or 16 hours. Don't jump straight into the deep end unless you are prepared to fall in love with a piece of sourdough bread. If you've ever tried an extended fast, leave a comment down below and tell me what food you hallucinated about on day 2. If you enjoyed watching me suffer for science, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who thinks skipping breakfast is a tragedy. I'm going to go eat a sandwich now. A really, really big sandwich. See you next time.